Today we're going to go over the top 3 fish to breed for profit. In this hobby, we all know things can get expensive. So breeding has forever been a way for hobbyists to get money back from this hobby and to potentially fund even more projects in the hobby. That's the reason why I fell in love with breeding, and that's why a lot of other people do the same. So in this video, I'm going to tell you guys the top 3 species that worked really well for me and have brought me the most money in this fish room, so you guys can get the juice. We're going to jump straight into number 1, and you probably already guessed it, guppies. Now the reason why guppies are such a good species to breed for profit is because A, they have massive clutches, B, they can breed month on month on month, and C, they can fetch a decent price. So what most breeders will do is they'll get one strain, chuck it in a tank, make sure that tank is that strain only of guppy to stop interbreeding. They will match that strain's unique needs, and they'll get that strain breeding and breeding and breeding and breeding. Then they'll sell to fish stores or they'll sell to the public. Either way, that's the recipe for success with guppies. Now let's go into a few things that you can do to enhance your guppy breeding. Now I'm going to totally assume that you've Googled the exact requirements that your particular strain of guppy needs, and we'll work from there. Now, in my experience, the thing that hinders massive growth or massive breeding potential in a colony is simple: ammonia. If you get ammonia spikes in your tank, it seems to start this cycle where one guppy will die off and you won't be able to find that guppy, and it will create its own ammonia spike as that body decomposes as well. Here's how I get around that. In my guppy tanks, I also have bottom feeders. So I like to use Bristlenose in every single one of my guppy tanks, and they seem to do really well together. What happens is, because guppies have generally got upwards facing mouths because they feed on the surface of the water, they can't pick food that's sunk from the surface, floated through the water column, and is now sitting on the bottom. So that food ends up becoming an ammonia spike. Enter Bristlenose, cleaning that up straight away. You don't end up having that horrible cycle of ammonia spike, ammonia spike, ammonia spike. And this has been one of the most easy to fix but most effective things that I've employed in my fish room, is just stacking those 2 species, Bristlenose and guppies, because the Bristlenose tend to breed as well. The second thing that's provided a longer term success for me, which is all I'm looking for, is instead of having bare bottom tanks, I will actually scape almost every single one of my tanks. Whether it's bare basics or really nice, my guppy tanks especially, I like to use aquascaping rocks that will leach minerals into the rock. So if I forget to remineralize my water to make it a little bit harder, then the rock is going to simply bring up my water chemistry anyway and increase the water hardness, so that it's almost like a bulletproof or a flawless system. Because guppies need that slightly higher GH in the water, the rocks will do that for me without me even thinking about it. Plus that can keep costs down in your fish room as well. The final thing when it comes to improving your guppy breeding is separation boxes or breeder boxes. Now guppies have got this tendency to consume their young. If you allow that to naturally occur, then your guppy mums and dads will pick off a bunch of the babies and you'll be left with maybe 10 out of a clutch when you could have 30. So in order to have lots of stock to sell, it's important that you separate your guppies either when the female is pregnant, before she gives birth. You can put it into a separation with a trap so that when she has her babies, all the babies fall to the bottom of the breeder box, or the harder version, after they've hatched, just net them out and put them into a separation box. Simple as that. That will ensure maximum breeding, maximum profit. On to the next one. The second thing on my list of most profitable fish is, as mentioned before, Bristlenose. For similar reasons as guppies, they're extremely hardy, and when they have clutches, Bristlenoses will sometimes have clutches of up to 50. You just need to know how to create the spawns. Once you've got a readily spawning pair, they will go month on month on month, assuming you meet their unique requirements. One thing to note is most people will say start with common Bristlenose, but I've found a few species to be just as easy and 10 times as profitable as the commons. Super Reds and Blue Eye Lemons are 2 really good species that are just as easy to breed as commons. And you can sell a common 3 centimeters, $3. But you can sell a super red Bristlenose, 3 centimeters, $20. As you can see, the profitability is massively different. Choose the more profitable one. Simple as that. Some tips with Bristlenose is A, they like tangles of driftwood. B, they need ceramic caves to lay their eggs in. And C, sometimes you may need to rescue a clutch of eggs or a freshly hatched batch of babies and put it in a separation box to ensure that they don't go moldy. There is a little bit of a learning curve with Bristlenoses, but trust me, dive in head first and you will pick it up in no time. If you want a separate video that's more in detail on how to breed Bristlenose, I'll put my Blue Eye Lemon card somewhere in here. And that's it for our Bristlenoses. When you get good though, you can start to experiment with the harder to breed Bristlenoses, like our long fin variants and peppermint Bristlenoses. Because the Ancistrus family is so vast, you've got so many options that satisfies almost every area of the market. Because Bristlenoses are such a cornerstone of the freshwater fish keeping hobby, everyone wants them in their tanks and they're an awesome addition. So if you start breeding that, they're always in demand and they're always well paid for. The third species on my list, and it's always gonna be on my profit list, shrimp. I know it's not a fish species, but it's got an honorable mention. Cherry shrimp has been the cornerstone of the profit in my fish room since the get-go. Though they've got a little bit of a learning curve to learn to keep, Neocaridina species are generally relatively hardy as long as you don't make a few key mistakes. Namely, don't put them with predatory fish. Any fish that can fit a shrimp into its mouth will eat your shrimp, so don't do that. Some of the tips that have helped me get massive growth out of my colonies relatively fast is A, setting up my aquascape just like before with rocks that leach minerals into the water. Shrimp thrive on that. B, and this was the biggest game changer, is powdered foods. When your shrimp have their babies, they might have 30 babies at once, and they're so small that you can't even see, but most of them will die off in the first week. Why? Because their mouths are so small, they can't find enough food or bacteria in your tank in order for them to sustain their growth into an adult, right? So the addition of powdered foods, really fine broadcasting foods to my shrimp tank has been such a growth hack because all the little shrimpies survive. We get such a high survival rate out of every clutch that a snowball effect starts and you get so many more shrimp so much faster after a 3-month period. And then those adults that were babies have a bunch more babies, and then those adults that were babies have a bunch more babies, and you get the point. Another tip with shrimp that's kind of a learning curve, try to avoid canister filters, or if you do have a canister filter, make sure you've got a pre-intake sponge that will protect all of your baby shrimplets getting sucked up your intake into your filter. One thing that I always do is I just rely really heavily on sponge filtration in my shrimp tanks. Because I know for a fact that sponge filtration means that there's a bacteria colony that my shrimp can eat, and they're not gonna get sucked up my filter and die. If you can add those 3 species to your fish room or your fish keeping hobby, they may end up being the 3 tanks that take your hobby from losing money to breaking even. Don't go expecting to be a millionaire with fish, but do expect to be able to buy some new things or replace the feeding and the energy bills in your fish room, or taking your girlfriend out on a date. All things I've been able to do because of breeding fish in my fish room, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have been able to do that. Hopefully this video helps. If you liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button because I'm gonna be launching way more videos just like this at you. So I'll see you on the next one.